In our previous video, we covered the raw SNS meta builds. Link in the top right and the description if you haven't seen that yet. But SNS is unique in Monster Hunter World in that elemental builds are just as viable as raw builds. In some matchups, raw is better, and in some elemental is better, and the difference between the two is rather small. But how do you maximize the damage on your elemental SNS? Well, I'm JinJinx.
And I'm Tuna. And we're
the Monster Hunter Math Guys. And this is Monster Hunter World Meta, Elemental Sword and Shield set.
Did somebody say Sword and Shield, the most epic, tail-cuttingest, head-bashingest, sex-appealingest set of weapons in all of Monster Hunter? You butt scrubbers better hold on to your attack jewels, and by that I mean f*** attack jewels. The only jewels we need are the massive balls you're gonna grow after using this majestic, shiny, dabbing duo. It cuts tails, smacks heads, butters toast, and eats elder dragons. And if anyone says otherwise, they're obviously a butthurt longsword main who couldn't land their Helmbreaker on an inflated Great Jagras. Now, although the Monster Hunter Math Guys may sound smart with all their silly data numbers and EFR and Hoop Zebra Virginias, nobody cares about stupid math. You want to do optimal DPS? I'll show you optimal DPS. Here's my build, perfect in every way. Wiggler head, absolutely essential. No substitutes, no replacements. The pinnacle of fashion and the most powerful helmet in the game. What are you doing? Stop looking over there. Second, Kieran pants, fashionable as and an ass you could bounce falling boulders off of. Master Bang, you don't want to know why they call it that. Max wide range and free element for maximum power. Your set is complete. Attack jewels? What attack jewels? What are you, some fragile pair of nergy nuts? Now you're ready to completely obliterate the universe. You're welcome.
Sorry about that, my computer got a worm somehow, but it's completely purged now, so on with the video. Honey Virus Hunter says it's called Jocat.exe? Where did I manage to get that from?
Moving on. In this video, we'll be covering the Elemental SNS combos, and we'll be giving you the Elemental SNS sets pre Iceborne. We won't cover the non-Kiara versions because they're so much weaker than the Kiara versions. Aside from having worse stats, they also require crit element armor pieces which are dreadfully inefficient. While they still have niche places in some matchups like Lunastra, you're generally better off using Ra. But if you're interested, maybe we can put something together. Let us know in the comments.
Now before we get into that, I do want to make a quick mention of something. It has come to our attention that a lot of you do not know that we have a Twitter and do not know that Tuna streams on Twitch. Tuna and I are equal partners, we share everything. So following us on Twitter as well as following Tuna on Twitch is one of the best ways you can help support us. And on top of that, it's completely free. Also, as soon as this video goes live, Tuna will be live on Twitch, so be sure to go check him out if you want to come chat. Alright, so we have already covered the combos in depth, link in the top right in the description, but here is a brief recap of what combos you use with Elemental SNS. So first off, we have the Slash combo. The Slash combo is the more raw damage focused version of the Sword and Shield Sword combos. Basically, you do 3 neutral circle attacks, those are going to be your heavy hitting sword attacks, into a directional triangle. This resets your combo with a Spiral Slash and a Thrust so you can continue doing more of your circle attacks. Again, check out our SNS combo guide for more detail, but basically this is going to be the Sword and Shield Sword combo that deals the most raw DPS. Now with the Kiara SNS meta builds we'll be showing in this video, you use this pretty much exclusively. The thing is, even though these are elemental builds, the EFR is so high compared to the effective element on the Kiara SNS builds that you end up dealing more damage with this more raw focused combo. So what is the other Sword and Shield Sword combo we're comparing it to? Well, that's the Waltz combo.
The Waltz combo is simple. You just go triangle, triangle, directional triangle, 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 directional triangle. Basically, this combo attacks as fast as possible to apply as many elemental hits as you can. It deals 10% more elemental damage over the Slash combo, but deals 20% less raw. This makes it worse on all Kiara weapons because they have a higher EFR to EFE ratio. Yes, even on Lunastra's zones. Keep in mind that this is only for the current Kiara weapons. In Iceborne, we will almost assuredly swap back to the Waltz combo for Elemental SNS. For more info on those potential changes, link in the top right and the description. For Falling Bash, the general rule is to not use it on Elemental SNS. There are certain extreme cases where KO is more important, or the monster's hit zones are so much better for blunt that you use them when you can, but TLDR Slash combo.
Alright, now that we know what combos we're going to be using, let's talk about the sets. Let's start with the water meta sets. So there are a few different variations of the meta set for the Kiar Water SNS. Let's start off with the Max Deeps variant of the set. So this set does have the highest potential DPS for any water SNS. Health Augment is mandatory because it is a peak set. But with only 10 units of white and 95% affinity, this does require very clean play to not hit blue sharpness. If you hit blue sharpness with this set, it is going to be worse than the comfy set we're about to cover next. However, this does have on average 200 hits until you hit blue sharpness, which is enough to kill something not arc-tempered. Now, we don't normally actually cover these 10 units of white sets because they're just not really worth using compared to the higher handicraft versions. They just demand that you be too robotic to work effectively. However, for these elemental SNS builds, the EFR game is actually pretty significant if you only run the 10 units of white sharpness.
Next up is the Kiar Water Comfy set. We add a crit eye, attack boost, and an agitator, and lose 3 peak performance. This puts it at 16.92 EFR lower with agitator active, but no peak reliance, which is very nice for TO runs or if you just hate peak. This is 20 units of white sharpness with 100% affinity, even without agi active. Way comfier, assuming you don't whiff weak points often. This set has effectively infinite white sharpness. We highly recommend this set if you don't play perfectly. Finally, we have the agitator version of the Kiar Water Comfy set. This is an alternate version of the Comfy set that has the highest potential EFR with Handicraft 3. It subs out 2 attack boost and 1 crit eye for a total of 4 agitator. When a monster's enraged, this will have higher damage output while giving you more forgiving amounts of white sharpness to work with. Without agitator, this only has 90% affinity, but that's still 200 hits of white on average on weak points, which is equal to the peak set. And that's only when enrage isn't active. You hit over 100% affinity during enrages. TLDR, this is the highest damage variant for the Comfy set. Use this if you intend to kill the thing fast so you get high agitator uptime, but you don't want to have to play perfectly like with the peak set.
Next up is the Fire set. Again, let's start off with the Max Deeps version. At 520 EFR with Peak and Agitator active, this set hits the highest EFR out of every single Kiar elemental set. We only use 2 fire attack on this because the last point only adds 10 more elements, which is not worth the investment. This is the best option for fire weak monsters like Kiran or Valhazak. In fact, due to how high the EFR is, it's only hitting about 30 to 40 lower than the actual raw builds. The Falling Bash combo can deal as much damage as a raw build just because you have 2 elemental procs during it. However, this particular Max Deep set is similar to the Water set in that it requires fairly perfect play to utilize. It has 95% affinity without Agitator, which means 200 hits on average until you hit blue sharpness. With Agitator active, this goes up to 98% affinity, so it's 500 hits on average until you hit blue. Which again is plenty enough to kill a thing, but it does require you to not whiff weak points and manage max might very well. Also, a quick note, even though as I mentioned this is very good for farming Kirin, speedruns still prefer using a Ruin Raw Blast set. The explanation as to why is kind of a long one and it's not really the place for it. But Fire Elemental SNS is very good for farming Kirin, it's just not really the preferred choice for speedrunning him.
This is the Comfy Fire set. We drop the Peak 3 for an attack boost, crit eye, and handicraft. This gives us 20 units of white and 100% affinity without Agitator procced. This drops the EFR by 28.43, which is a lot, but you lose the peak reliance and have an extremely comfy level of white sharpness, which makes this our recommended set. Your play needs to be clean to run the Max Deeps version of the Fire Kiar set.
Next we have the Kiar King Comfy Agitator set. This set is the same as the previous set, except for we trade out that attack boost and that crit eye for 2 Agitator instead. At 500.81 EFR, this is the higher DPS during enrages out of the 2 comfy builds. With 95% affinity without Agitator active, this set still has 400 hits on average on weak points until you hit blue. And that's when the monster isn't enraged. When it is enraged, you have effectively infinite white sharpness as long as you're hitting weak points and managing your max might. This is plenty enough sharpness to kill even a high HP monster like Arc-Tempered Valhazak. This is going to be our recommended set for runs where you want to get them done very quickly and therefore have high Agitator uptime. While it does deal less damage than the Max Deep set, it doesn't require you to play like a robot to use effectively. Alright, next up we have the Ice SNS builds. Now, Ice is unique among the Kiar SNSs because it has a lot of natural white sharpness. This means you don't need to run any handicraft to get max deeps out of the set. And speaking of max deeps, this set with Peak and Agitator active has 486.02 EFR. Very nice. And with 59.23 effective element, this'll pretty much melt anything that's weak to ice. Well, it'll melt any of them except for one very important ice matchup.
Lunastra. Instead, you'll run this. It only hits 562.52 EFR, but it isn't peak reliant, and more importantly, isn't Wex reliant. As we've mentioned in all of our Luna guides, the only sever weak point that Luna has are her tail and wings. Sword and Shield can't hit those unless Luna is down, which means the less Wex reliant a set is, the better it is against Luna. The typical playstyle for Luna is to slash the legs and then slash the wings on down, rinse and repeat until dead.
Alright, next up are Thunder SNSs. So first off, Thunder has always been and continues to be pretty much obsolete for SNS. Thunder hit zone values are f***ing terrible on monsters. The only two exceptions to this are ATKT and Bagel, but for Bagel, Raw is considerably better. And also his Dragon hit zone values are only 5 less than all of his Thunder hit zone values. And Dragon weapons just get much higher stats. And for ATKT, Elemental SNS isn't really the way to go in Area 1 through 3. Even Tuna doesn't use it against ATKT unless he's memeing. There are just so many better options than to use SNS against ATKT for Area 1 through 3. So yeah, we're not gonna cover Thunder SNS because there isn't a situation you would use it over something else. So instead, let's move on to the final element, Dragon. So funny enough, the best Dragon SNS is also the best Raw SNS, the Devil Joe Sword and Shield. Now we already featured the Joe SNS in our previous Raw SNS meta video. Link in the top right and the description. Now instead of rehashing that old build, let's talk about why this is the best Dragon set. So there is another contender for best Dragon Sword and Shield, the Witcher Sword and Shield. But the Joe SNS is still better for the Wrath family, which is the majority of Dragon Weak monsters in the game. Now this is because the Devil Joe SNS deals the highest possible damage per second to the Wrath family's head while only dealing slightly less damage to the legs with the slash combo. Your standard rotation against the Wrath family is to slash combo the legs until it falls over and then falling bash the head. Now the Witcher Sword and Shield does deal about 1 more DPS when slashing the legs. And when the Witcher SNS slashes the head versus the Devil Joe SNS bashing the head, it's only 1 less DPS as well, which roughly equals out in damage, but the Devil Joe SNS with Falling Bash gets KO damage. There's also the problem that when you're trying to slash combo a flailing rat's head after you trip them, you might end up hitting the wings, the neck, or the legs on accident. Conversely, it's fairly easy to land Falling Bashes only on the head. However, the Witcher SNS is the best for 2 very important Dragon Weak matchups in the game, Devil Joe and Behemoth.
The Witcher SNS has better slash combos than the Joe SNS, but falls behind on the bash combo. Behemoth and Joe are 2 monsters that you really can't bash effectively. Most of the time you slash combo the legs and arms. You can really only bash on their heads when they're down, and both of these monsters have very short downtimers. This makes the Witcher SNS the go-to for these 2 monsters specifically. And no, we don't use crit element in this set. Because of how inefficient the crit element armor pieces are, crit element actually leads to this set losing out on damage. Elemental SNS is the most raw-focused elemental weapon, even more so than the dual blades. The elemental damage gain isn't enough to offset the damage loss in our combos, so we go for the classic Metahemoth Raw set with Dragon Attack 3. With 508.23 EFR with peak active, this is 40.63 EFR lower than the Agitator Joe set in our Raw SNS video. That's a lot. But in exchange, we get 48.38 EFE. That's a little over double the elemental damage of the Joe SNS set. This is what makes its slash combos hit so much harder. Also, it has 70 units of natural white sharpness, meaning you have to try really hard to get to that blue sharpness level. The Joe SNS set's still very comfy with 95 or 98% affinity and 30 units of white sharpness, so that really shouldn't be a problem, but if you don't trust your weak point or your max might management, this set is insanely good. TLDR, use this versus Behemoth or Joe, or if you don't want a Falling Bash spam on the Wrath family for some reason.
Now you might be thinking, what about the Kjær Dragon SNS? After all, isn't this a Kjær Elemental SNS builds video? Well, the Kjar Dragon is strictly outclassed by both the Witcher and the Deviljho SNS. So compared to the Witcher SNS, the Kjar Dragon drops another 59.17 EFR, which is a lot, by the way, in exchange for getting another 23 effective elements. But the elemental gain just isn't worth it. Due to having the lowest EFR, it has the lowest falling bash damage out of every single one of these builds. And while it does have higher elements, because it has lower EFR than the Witcher SNS, it always deals less slash combo damage as well. The only combo it deals the most in is the Waltz combo, but the Waltz combo is strictly outclassed by the slash combo and the falling bash combo on every Dragon Week matchup in the game. It is just strictly outclassed. The Deviljho SNS falling bash is better, and the Witcher SNS slash combo is better. And in the current meta, those are the combos we care about. Alright, those are all of the meta SNS builds.
As always, guys, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to like it and share it around. That's the best way to support us for free. If you need to get in contact with us, or you're just looking for other hunters to hunt with, check out our Discord server, the Mathlos Nest. You can also follow us on Twitter for updates and other fun stuff, and you can check me out on Twitch where I stream Monster Hunter and other games almost every day. Shout out to Honey at Honey Hunters World for providing the tools we use to make sets.
And I'd like to thank MaestroNox, a brilliant sword and shield speedrunner who provided the background footage for this video. Link to his channel in the top right and the description. And a huge thank you to Jocat for infecting my computer with a worm and showing up in this video. Jocat is a great guy and a phenomenal artist who makes some hilarious content. Be sure to check out his channel if you haven't already, link in the top right and description. Not gonna lie, editing together that whole bit was one of the more fun editing jobs I've had in a long time. Also, according to our antivirus Honey Virus Hunter, apparently the Jocat.exe worm infected our raw SNS meta video 8 total times. Now we caught the one at the very end of the video, but if you see any of those other 7 instances, be sure to let me know in the comment below. And of course, none of this would be possible without the generosity of our patrons. So an especially huge thank you to MC Persona, Foray, Yoshi Cho, Flight, David Sternberg, XCLK07, Holcanis, Gilgi, Haika, Milky Powder, David Zhu Sinclair, Sinful by Nature, Warren Kios, Hensatsuken, Papa Slatch, Wet Manticore, Captain Big Brain, Zamia Washington, Superfly, Bram Orsel, Anti-Spartan, Lightweight, The Local, PB Livingston, Flagoblast, Jordan Petit, Skylar Yang, Kong Kong, Lupin, Mongus, Kumiko, Triple Agents, Zarashi, Alan O'Dom, Baguette, Zinv, Sir Kite, Billy Barthol, Yodi Cosmopyra, Dandy, Captain Walmart, Magister Obscura, Jamie, and every single one of you who support us on Patreon. Seriously, thank you guys so much. Thanks to you guys, we're able to take risks like doing collaborations like these that do take a bit longer to produce. Y'all remind us that you love this content-dense, well-researched style of video. And frankly, if we wanted to play the YouTube game better, we would do more clickbait-style content. But y'all's support constantly reminds us that that is not what you guys want to see and that is not what you deserve. So thank you again, it really does mean the world to us.
We'll have the final video of this series, the status SNS sets, out soon. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when those go live. Hope to see you in the next one. Happy hunting, hunters. Bye.